Hello and welcome to the Dyno Six Pack Dynasty Podcast. I'm joined by my buddy Mike LaPlant here. Today we're going to be breaking down the first and second year running backs, kind of putting them together in some combined ranks. Mostly going to be going through and breaking them down on the Dynasty side, but Mike's going to be kicking in his thoughts on the redraft side as well. For the people that aren't, do a little bit of both, you get like a little bit of everything here for you. Let's see here, just 1 second. And all right, drafted Darren Waller. Okay.
I was just going to say that flew by so fast.
All right, before we get going here, man, hit the like and subscribe button so you can see really good professional content like what I just did right there. Get on over to fantasy6pack.net/plans. When you become a member, man, you get like all sorts of rankings, DFS tools, betting tools. You get access to a Discord with both of us. You can send us messages directly, get help with your fantasy team. Really, you get a lot of good bang for your buck, I guess is what I mean.
Top 10 ranked fantasy football analysts. You know, you got Joe, you got Keith, you got Nick Spencer over there. So, I mean, a lot of intelligent minds when it comes to fantasy football. Definitely, I mean, give it a look. If you're not interested, I understand, but give it a look at least. It's
I mean, even if you do baseball too, then we have like the number
1 and
3.
Number 1, yeah.
Keith, like that.
Keith Lott. I don't know how he did it. I honestly don't, but he pulled it off. Last year, he was number 1 in the pre-draft rankings, and that's no easy achievement to pull off.
Not at all. But yeah, that's the level of analysis you get when you join that membership right here. So it's well worth it. Give it a shot, like Mike was saying here. But all right, let's keep going here on these running backs. So starting off, we're going to go through my top 5, as you can kind of see on the bottom right here. Number 1, we got Bijan Robinson. Number 2, Jahmyr Gibbs. Number 3, Breece Hall. Number 4, Kenneth Walker. And number 5, Dameon Pierce. So I guess first thing right off the bat, does anything kind of stand out to you or like kind of seem way off, or what are your kind of just general thoughts on the top 5 there?
I mean, just in, comparison to mine, the one thing that kind of stood out to me is I just didn't think we'd kind of be this similar for the top 5. We only vary in one running back, and that's the 5th one. You got Dameon Pierce. I got Rashad White. Ooh. And I mean, I don't have Dameon Pierce that far off of 5. We'll get more into that, when we move along, but that's really the only surprise I kind of had. Is I was shocked just, from the dynasty perspective and the redraft, perspective I'm coming in with, that 4 of those top 5 guys were, right in line. I had Bijan 1, Jahmyr Gibbs 2. I'm sure your thoughts aligned with mine with Hall, coming off the ACL injury. He's going to be better off in the second half of the season, but still probably not going to be producing as much as Robinson and Gibbs right away.
Not right away, no.
And then you have Kenneth Walker, bringing up the rear in that. I would honestly consider that, probably the first tier in this category for running backs and first and second year running backs. How about yourself, though? I mean, anything that stood out for you?
Just kind of like what you were mentioning, I thought it was kind of interesting just like how much overlap there was, but I think that really just kind of says a lot about the position in general, that like you really can't look past 3 years in a dynasty when it comes to dynasty running backs. Like if you get 2-3 good years, I mean, that's all you can really expect. So maybe we shouldn't be surprised that there's not a ton of variance, but I guess it's just kind of the nature of the position.
The one thing I will just say, because I love Bijan Robinson this year. I really do. I'll reiterate it over and over again. Top 10 drafted running backs are guaranteed a running back 1 workload in their rookie season. They're going to just feed the rock to him. So volume alone is going to push, Bijan into that RB 6 to 12 range, redraft, dynasty, however you want to look at it, best ball. And honestly, what it depends on for him is, really the offense, the ceiling of the Falcons. If he can get 10 plus touchdowns, he is a lock as a top 5 RB. I mean, prime example, when Zeke came into the league, 2016, he scored 15 touchdowns as a rookie, ended up as the number 2 half-point PPR running back. So if he can get double-digit touchdowns, he is by far going to be a steal, even with him going in the late, back to half end of first rounds, early second round. So I love him. And then Jahmyr Gibbs, I have, in the position he is, just because I do believe the offense for the Lions are going to take a step forward this year. So the touchdowns increase there for him. And he's, just a clear Swift replacement. So he's going to be used in the passing game. You got Montgomery taking, most of the red zone attempts. So I'm a little bullish on Gibbs just because I know the Lions want a split workload between their running backs. But at the same time, like this guy, I saw him in college, I mean, this guy is explosive as all hell. So, I mean, he's going to get the ball and he's probably going to average probably like 7 to 8 yards, just a reception.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm intrigued to see what his carry attempt numbers are. But so he's kind of like just the one I'm not 100% sure on. But then, you know, Breece Hall coming up on number 3,
Mm-hmm.
you know, through 7 games last year. And this will be the last thing I'll say, and I'll let you talk a little bit.
Oh, no, yeah.
Through 7 games last year, Breece Hall averaged 15.1 points a game. All right. Now, this is half-point PPR points. Now, out of all running backs, I know he only played 7 games, but out of all running backs, that was 7th, behind only Eckler, McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, and Nick Chubb. All stud names, household names that you know. You know, coming off the ACL injury is the only, you know, scare here. But back half of the season, the schedule lightens up. The injury will probably be a little bit more assimilated. You know, he'll be a little bit more. But then next year is really where he's going to take off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the ranking at number 3 is definitely good. You're playing more for next year, like really kind of leaning into that dynasty side as much as you can at the running back position. Kind of circling back to those top 2, Bijan and Gibbs. You mentioned the pass catching ability for Gibbs. I mean, I think that alone is going to give him a floor as like a flex level player as a rookie.
Especially with the suspensions they got going on in Detroit.
Exactly. They're going to need people to play underneath and catch passes there. Last year, you know, had 44 catches in college. No reason you can't do that this year with the Lions. I mean, David Montgomery's never been a very good pass catcher, so I can't imagine he takes more than like maybe 5-10% of the passing downs there. Bijan too, I think there's a little bit of untapped potential as a receiver for Bijan as well. He didn't get quite as much volume in the passing game as Gibbs did, but he had 16.5 yards per catch on the ones that they did give him. So, I mean, I think there's a little bit of extra receiving ability that could like make Bijan even better than he was in college already. Playing with the coach that was the mastermind behind the offense that made Derrick Henry what he is in Tennessee. Even with Tyler Algier being there, I mean, I think they're going to be a nice 1-2 punch. I think similar to like some of the backfields we've seen in the past, like the Zeke, Pollard, Hunt, Chubb. I could see both of him. I could see Bijan being like an RB1, and I could see Tyler Algier having some flex value. I think that they're going to run the ball outside of, you know, London and Pitts. They don't have a ton of weapons in the passing game. Ritter's, you know, he's still trying to prove himself. I think that they're going to really go heavy through the run game and the running backs here. So, I mean, it's full steam ahead for the guys in Atlanta for me. I'm a big fan of both these guys. What do you think about that?
The only thing I'm not 100% behind is I do believe there is untapped potential there with Robinson. I just don't know how much they will use him in the passing game this year, just because I don't know how much the Falcons are going to pass the ball this year. Like you said, Arthur Smith is the mastermind behind the whole Derrick Henry offense, how he has gotten an offense that is run first to work in a league now where it's all passing first. So he does have the blueprint to make this work. And that blueprint includes Bijan Robinson probably getting 300 plus touches.
Oh, for sure.
All right. Now, I think 90% of those touches are going to come on the ground, just kind of like how Derrick Henry was used. Because I think Arthur Smith sees, you know, Algier and Patterson almost in that, you know, secondary pass catching role, like they would never give Derrick Henry in Tennessee. So that's just my only kind of concern is the passing. I don't know how much they'll just pass overall as an offense this year. But I absolutely agree. I mean, they didn't need to use him in college to catch the ball. So like he has so much untapped potential there, and that's why the ceiling is unlimited for this guy. And I mean, if he can get, you know, 5 scores through the air, 6 scores on the ground, easily, he's going to probably be the steal of the draft this year. I mean, at least in the first couple rounds, because everybody's always skeptical of rookie, you know, running backs, and you know,
especially in like a redraft perspective,
it's warranted. It is 100% warranted. But I can't, you know, there's a big sample size of top 10 drafted RBs that just finish as, you know, at least a minimum of an RB12 their rookie year. After that's a different story. But that first year, you know, they spent a top 10 draft pick on a running back. They're going to use the hell out of him.
Yep, absolutely. I agree there.
So just volume alone is going to, you know, drive his season.
Yeah, for sure. Last 2 guys real quick before we move on. Kenneth Walker. I can't believe we talked about it last time, but I can't believe they drafted Sharps there in the 2nd round. I mean, and even Kenny McIntosh there. I mean, I could see him getting some work on passing downs as well too. I think that like those 2 additions like kind of eliminates like any chance Walker had of really taking another step forward as a pass catcher, which was a bummer because a little bit that we did see, like he looked pretty good in that role last year. As far as
honestly, he just looked good whenever he was on the field. Let's be honest.
I mean, one of the best pure just runners that we saw in the last few years. But I do think the additions of Sharbs could make for some frustrating weeks this year. I think before the draft, I had Walker as my dynasty running back 2 overall, dropping down to 8 after the draft, just because I think there's going to be a little bit of frustrating weeks. Not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but Zach Charbs, he's my number 6 running back in this list. So it just kind of, I think, similar to the Bijan Algier split, I think that both of these guys could get a ton of work in Seattle. Before we move on to him, Dameon Pierce, he's a guy I've been all in on this year. I think he's like my most owned running back over my 12 dynasty leagues that I have. I think that he's going to get all the work that he can handle this year. They're going to want to make it as easy as possible for Stroud to get acclimated to the game. He had over 1,000 rushing yards last year, or 1,000 combined rushing and receiving yards last year. So he does a little bit as a pass catcher as well. Was able to get in the end zone 5 times on a really, really bad Texans team that I think is going to be improved this year. They're going to be a better team. It's going to lead to more fantasy opportunities. I think that even at number 5, Pierce could be ranked a little bit low here. Like if you told me at the end of the year he outscored Kenneth Walker and even Breece Hall, I wouldn't be shocked by it at all.
For me, and I have it in my notes here, but the biggest thing for me for Pierce is just the pass catching game. Like last year, he got 39 targets last year, which was tied for 30th amongst all running backs. So they bring in Devin Singletary, which is a clear pass catching back. So I just don't know about the pass catching here, which is what's going to push the ceiling of Dameon Pierce up a little bit more, in my opinion, unless the offense of Houston takes a step forward with CJ Stroud. The one little stat I do want to just share before I move on to my 5 to 10 is with Kenneth Walker. When I was doing some research on him, I was looking up opportunity share. And, for those of you who don't know, that's the percentage of, total team running back carries plus the targets. All right. The insane thing is Walker had a 65.3% opportunity share last year, which was 13 amongst running backs, 1 spot above the RB1 on the year, Eckler, with 65%.
So he was getting a more percentage of the touches
when he was on the field
than Eckler was. Interesting.
So, there is a clear love here for Walker when it comes to Pete Carroll, and I don't know, we'll see it when it comes to the season. Maybe it's just been getting Charbonnet and McIntosh later is maybe just to take a little bit of workload off of Kenneth Walker, so they
you gotta have multiple running backs in today's NFL. You can't just have one.
Exactly, because it was clear when he was on the field, Carroll wanted to get him the ball more than the coach for the Chargers wanted to get Eckler the ball. That's insane, in my opinion. So they want to use him. It's just they also want him healthy, and that was the clear problem last year. It's just the health. So I think
he's a violent runner too. He's a very violent runner. So
very fast too. But moving on to my top, my 5 to 10 here, my 6 to 10. Sorry, I actually have Pacheco coming in at 6, James Cook coming in at 7, Dameon Pierce at 8. Robinson at 9, and then this one you'll probably find the most, odd. I have Jerome Ford at 10.
Oh, I like that. That's juicy. Okay, I can see that. Before we dive into that too much, my 6 through 10 here, just so you guys can kind of compare. Like I said, Charbs got him at number 6, and then we have a little bit of difference here. I have a couple of rookies that are bumped up ahead of 2 of the guys you have here. I have a Kendry Miller, Devin Achane coming in at 7 and 8, and then I have Pacheco at 9 and Cook at 10.
Completely justifiable
for Dynasty. I think the upside's a little bit higher with those 2. But for redraft, give me Pacheco and Cook for sure in redraft leagues.
Yeah, it's the offense. You can't beat being on a Kansas City Chiefs or a Buffalo Bills offense. The Bills, they got rid of Devin Singletary, so the passing game is wide open there for James Cook to take over the role. Yeah, they signed Damian Harris, so the red zone's going to be a little murky for him, but there's plenty of PPR value there for Cook. Pacheco, I just love, because at the end of the season there, they clearly showed more trust in him. Even in the Super Bowl, they showed him more trust. They didn't activate CEH, which was a first-round draft pick for them, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. So I think they found their guy in Pacheco. Man, I'm just a little worrisome of like that Dameon Pierce, Brian Robinson range, because I have them literally right next to them. I literally see them as the same player, in my opinion.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
They're both violent runners. Both really good on the ground. Both just, maulers. All right. Not really breakaway top end speed to where they're going to be getting 50, 40-yard plus touchdowns, in my opinion. But, these guys are getting 4+, 5+ yards a carry.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And they should get a ton of carries too.
Exactly. Each last year had over 200, 10 carries. Brian Robinson had 207.
He would have crushed it had he not had, getting shot in the preseason. He would have been way above that.
It's just the passing game. This is why I say they're both the same, in my opinion. Is neither team wants to use them in the passing game. All right. Obviously, Dameon Pierce is dealing with Devin Singletary. It's a little bit, but he's still a good, he is a respected pass catching back in the league. The reason why I have Brian Robinson just a tick below Dameon Pierce is because my tiebreaker here was that Brian Robinson has to deal with Antonio Gibson. Mm-hmm. Just a little bit more talented of a running back, in my opinion, than Devin Singletary.
I like Gibson.
Yeah, and I mean, again, coach speak, I hate it, but, here comes Ron Rivera coming out going again, we really need to use Antonio Gibson in the passing game some more, just like he's been saying the past 3 years. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I don't know if that's actually going to be true, but at the same time, Brian Robinson has a tougher competition in the backfield than Dameon Pierce, so that's why I edged it to Pierce. Because otherwise, these offenses both stink. I mean, I trust Stroud more than I trust Howell at this moment. So that's kind of up in the air, and their offenses are really kind of what drags me down. But the reason I have Jerome Ford here at number 10, and I know that was very spicy, and I knew it was, but it's straight up Stefanski, how he wants to run his offense. He wants to run his offense just like Pete Carroll wants to run his offense. He wants 2 running backs to switch in and out. Nick Chubb is clearly the number 1 guy here, but in an offense where he has the 2 running backs he likes, perfect example, 2020 Kareem Hunt, he was an RB10 and half-point PPR. I mean, that's insane for the guy sitting behind Nick Chubb, because I'm pretty sure Nick Chubb finished RB7 that year. Mm-hmm. So in 2021, Hunt got injured, played only 8 games. All right. It wasn't even like a top 40 running back. All right. Injuries happen. 2022, Hunt was an RB40. All right. And I mean, he still showed value in that offense with Stefanski to complement Chubb. So being that Jerome Ford is the only guy behind Chubb right now, he's the number 2 guy in the depth chart. I think Jerome Ford is a little bit undervalued, and I don't know if the ADP is going to catch up to him before, draft season starts.
No, I mean, that's a good point. And I don't really see Cleveland being a team that brings in another running back, because they could have just kept Kareem Hunt.
It's not like they're going to get Cook, who just got cut either, So it's a hot take. I 100% get it. I will take 100% of the blame if it doesn't, come forward. But I mean, Cleveland, maybe Deshaun Watson is still rusty, and they want to start off running the ball. Jerome Ford's going to be a part of that offense. And we haven't actually been able to see him with a, bigger workload. So, I mean, it's kind of, up in the air here, but at the same time, plenty of volume to be had in Cleveland when you're running back.
No, I mean, it's a good point. And if he's a guy that could turn into even just like a flex level player where you're drafting him, I mean,
that's what Kareem Hunt was, man, for a lot of players.
Circling back to the 2 rookies, there's a couple of notes that I wanted on them. Kendra Miller, man, he's been like my ride or die since the pre-draft. Love the landing spot for him. Depending how the Kamara situation plays out, he's a guy that I could see breaking out more in like that 12 to 24 game range, as opposed to like right out the gates, like where I think like Bijan and Gibbs are going to be effective from week 1. But I do think that he's in a great offense long term. I think he has like legit 3-down back potential, like as much as any running back does these days in the NFL. So big fan here. I think that you're going to have plenty of opportunities to have another secondary buy low window on him, because I do think it'll be a bit of a slow start. So weeks 2, 3, 4, when guys start to get desperate, I'm sending out offers for him if I don't have him. Same thing goes for Devin A-Chain here. There's a spot in Miami I could see being in play for Dalvin Cook. If he doesn't, though, then fire up your Devin A-Chain. I mean, he could not have found a better landing spot for like what he does. They have speed everywhere on the field. They're going to be able to pick the spots to attack with him. The one knock on him is he's 5'8", but when you have that much speed on the field, you can really be creative and pick your spots and be effective with those touches. Only Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson, who are pillars of health ahead of them. So another guy, 12 to 24 games, and I think he's going to have a big breakout. So if he starts off slow, go send out some offers there. Just a couple notes on Pacheco and Cook before we move on here. Pacheco, man, once he took over the in-between tackles role, he didn't look back. It was clearly the best running back in that backfield. McKinnon coming back does limit the upside in the passing game. But that being said, Pacheco caught 13 out of 14 targets last year, and he had some flashes there.
To piggyback off what you said about the passing game, you're 100% right. The one stat I found just absolutely obscene. You know who was the fourth leading target leader on the Chiefs last year? Jerick McKinnon.
Yeah, I believe it.
I mean, I believe it, but at the same time, why?
Yeah.
So like they don't want to use the passing game.
Yeah. I mean, the one knock on him, especially like on the Dynasty side, is he is a day 3 pick. So I mean, at any point, any draft, there's a chance that he could get replaced. But I mean, they got Tyreek in round 5, they got Kelsey in round 3. Like, I don't think they play into the draft capital.
They're a team that develops their draft.
They don't care where it comes from. Like, round 7 undrafted, if you can play, you're gonna get the
they're the ones that found Kareem Hunt back in the day in the 3rd round too. So I mean, it is very possible they know what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the last few notes on James Cook. I'm excited to see Damien Harris there. I think that he'll be in a better spot than he was in New England. That being said, though, Cook is the guy there. He's way more explosive. There's a couple of stats comparing these last year. So yards per carry, James Cook had 5.8 versus 4.4 to Damien Harris. Yards per catch, 8.6 for Cook to 5.7 for Harris. All together, Cook last year had 112 total touches, 705 yards, comes out to over 6 yards per total touch. I mean, so that just kind of shows you how effective he was as a rookie. He's going to get close to that 200 touch range this year.
That's funny. You said he had overall 112 touches last year.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I had here is the Buffalo Bills had 112 targets just to the RBs last year.
Yeah.
All right. And, you know, the only other RBs behind James Cook, passing wise, because, I mean, Damien Harris is clearly not passing back, is Nyheim Hines and Latavius Murray.
Yeah. And Hines, yeah.
I mean, yeah, they traded for Hines, but they clearly are using him in the special teams.
Exactly. He's a returner.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, like, the floor is open for James Cook to get, 80 to 90 targets this year? Not including what he gets on the ground?
He's going to clear 200 touches easy.
Yeah. Like, I can easily see, you know, even if Damien Harris gets, 200 touches, 200 carries, James Cook gets 100. There's your 300 for the team. 80% of those targets are going to Cook, not Harris. So easily, I think you're right. I think I don't know if you said this or I'm just thinking it myself, but I think overall Cook has the most touches for the RBs for the Bills overall at the end of the year.
I would agree with that too, for sure. Let's kick it down to my number 11 through 15 for the Dynasty side. Starting off at number 11, a guy that you had, I believe, number 5, Rachaad White. Number 12 here, we got Tajay Spears. Next after that, I got Tank Bigsby. Then we got Roschon Johnson, and then the previously mentioned Brian Robinson rounding out number 15 for me. So obviously, you know, you have White and Brian Robinson a little bit higher than me. What are just kind of general thoughts about having them here versus Dynasty versus on your side?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly get the Dynasty part of it because when you get Rachaad White, it's like there's no guarantee he's going to even have a job next year. I mean, so I get that. The reason I look at Rachaad White a little bit higher in redraft perspective this year is because the backfield consists of White, Keyshawn Vaughn, and Chase Edmonds. I mean, that's, in my opinion, even worse than just talking about.
Don't disrespect Sean Tucker, undrafted free agent.
Yeah, I mean, but he's still got to prove himself too.
Yeah,
And also, like, if I remember correctly, didn't he have some injury concerns coming out too?
I believe so, yeah.
So,
he was just inconsistent. I mean, he had flashes, but never really put it together for a full year.
So there's definitely some hurdles, at least for him to climb up the depth chart first, because it's listed White, Vaughn, Edmonds right now. But the main reason here is, you know, just last year with Leonard Fournette on the team, I know Brady was there as well. White saw 58 targets. All right. He also got 100 rushing attempts on the ground last year. All right. So that was just right there, about 150 touches. All right. With Leonard Fournette. Now Fournette is gone. Fournette took 83 targets. All right. And he had 180 rushing attempts last year. So I think it is just all Rachaad White's backfield this year. We talked about Baker going to be, you know, peppering the underneath passes. I think it's going to be Rachaad White. I looked at his catches. So he had the 58 targets. He caught 50 of them.
50 of them, yeah.
That's insane. I mean, so he has the ability to do it, and I think the floor is his in Tampa Bay. It's just honestly, how good is this offense going to be? But with the volume, I think he's going to be a solid RB2, RB3 this year, redraft purposes.
I mean, I could see that. Like, so a couple things you said that I agree with. Like, I'm not sure how good he is really. Like, I'm not sure how much he just being in that role. Like, I haven't really, from the time he came into the league, I haven't really bought into it. So overall, at least I have one share of Rachaad White. But that being said, he seems to survive the offseason. Like everyone all year is saying, oh, they're going to bring in somebody. They'll sign somebody.
They signed Chase Edmonds.
I mean, yeah, at this point, like he survived. I wouldn't be shocked if he's, up over 250 touches this year. But that being said, I also wouldn't be shocked if this is the best year of his career from a fantasy perspective, if they do bring in someone next year. But this year, I mean, like you said,
like he's going to be a flash in the pan type of guy, I think, maybe this year. But that's why, I agree with you on the dynasty side. Sorry.
No, the other thing I said, the Bucs are going to be bad, so they're going to be passing a lot, and that's going to go to White's benefit as well too. So I think that I think this could be a really sneaky play in redraft leagues. But from a dynasty's perspective, we get to like week 11 and 12, he's killing it, man. I am selling high at the deadline, trying to get some picks or getting like another player that maybe has a little bit less name value that I think could sustain a little bit long term.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even, and this is a little off topic, wouldn't even be surprised if the Bucs are terrible this year and they fire Todd Bowles. And then, the regime that drafted Rachaad White, bye-bye, which means no guarantees for Rachaad White long-term.
Absolutely. The next three in my list here, a couple of rookies. We got, like I said, Tajay Spears, Tank Bigsby, Roschon Johnson. Out of those three, who do you think has like the biggest impact in redraft this year?
Redraft purposes, probably, and I said this earlier on our last episode we did together. It's probably still going to be Tank Bigsby for me. I just think unless Derrick Henry gets injured, Tajay Spears is just going to be the complimentary role. All right, on a bad offense. All right, Roschon Johnson, he's behind Deontay Foreman. He's behind Herbert. So there's just more competition there. And then you got Tank Bigsby, who's behind Travis Etienne, who, I mean, in my opinion, can't stay healthy for a full season. Like most running backs, it's no knock against him, but that's just all running backs. Most running backs don't play full 16, 17 games, even back when it was 16. So, Tank Bigsby, they drafted him, what was it, third round? And they drafted Snoop Conner last year, I'm pretty sure, third round.
Yeah.
So... And Snoop Conner, I mean, if he was any good, they wouldn't have drafted Tank Bigsby in the third round again this year to replace his ass. So I do think the Jaguars take a step forward this year as an offense, top 10 offense, which leaves a lot of touchdown potential here for Tank because ETN is not necessarily your red zone back. So I do think Tank Bigsby can have like a Damian Harris type of role in this offense.
Yeah.
Not a lot of passing game work, but wouldn't be surprised if he ends the year with, double-digit touchdowns. Honestly, wouldn't.
I can see that. Tajay Spears, and the one thing I've been hoping for all year is, I'm hoping, well, just in general, I'm hoping that they look to go to the youth movement this year. They got Will Levis there. Maybe then you look to move on from Derrick Henry. But then you hear rumors of hey, they're going to come work out DeAndre Hopkins. They're going to try and be good again this year. And it's just going to be frustrating as shit. But when Spears does get that shot, man, in college that last year had over 7 yards per carry on over 220 touches. So it wasn't like he just had 100 touches and was effective. He had a high volume, was very effective.
Yep. He can handle the workload.
Absolutely. He can contribute as a receiver. He's not going to be ever your 50 catch guy like Rachaad White, but he can get you 15, 20 catches there a little bit. He is a guy, though. I don't think the Titans are going to be good. At some point, I think they're going to be forced to go to the youth movement. At that point, then I think that's when Spears is going to come in, and you're going to have 2 or 3 years of him just getting force-fed targets while they rebuild the rest of the roster around him. Another guy kind of on that 12 to 24 game breakout schedule that I had Miller and A-Chain on.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for Tajay, I mean, we heard the rumors in the offseason of Derrick Henry possibly being traded. I mean, that's honestly, in my opinion, the path to a bigger workload for him is just, Derrick Henry gone. Whether it be injury, which, God forbid ever happens, because I have shares of him. But it's either going to be injury or I think a trade with Derrick Henry, going, like you said, a youth movement, knowing that, hey, we're not going to make it to the Super Bowl. Let's trade Derrick Henry, get what we can, get younger. type of deal. I think Tajay, you know, it could have that back half stretch where he could be a lot more valuable. Maybe they shut down Henry at the back end of the year if they suck type of deal. But if I had to rank out of those just three, it'd be Tank, Tajay, and then Roshan, just because, I mean, it's Tajay behind Derrick Henry, but yet Roshan's got to deal with Deontay Foreman and Khalil Herbert, and also Justin Fields.
Yeah, I will say though, Roshan is like the one guy that if you told me in a year from now that he just took a hold of that RB1 job and like he was the biggest beneficiary to Justin Fields' offense, I wouldn't be too shocked about it.
I mean, they got 1 year contract on Deontay Foreman. Khalil Herbert is no superstar as of yet. I mean,
efficient with his touches, but yet to put it together for an extended period of time.
Exactly. Sure. No, has yet to prove that he can even handle a full workload as a running back. So,
which, to be fair, Roshan barely hit 100 carries in college, so that's a fair knock to put on him as well too. Like we haven't really seen him.
Maybe he's more of the pass catching back in this offense, because I in my opinion, I think the Bears take a step forward in the passing game this year. Yeah. Like, how do you trade for DJ Moore and not want to pass more? I think Roshan can have some value there. It's just I don't know how much value that is yet.
Yeah, I don't even know that I don't even have him on like that 12 to 24 game breakout schedule. I think he could be more of like a year 2, year 3 player if he breaks out there. But again, just a name to keep in mind, because he wouldn't be the first guy that came into the league, got more touches and more of a featured role, and then it blew up with it. Last guy in this group here, Brian Robinson. We already talked about him, a few notes I had on him. I do think that he's going to improve on that 3.9 yards per carry mark from last year. But like we said, I think Gibson's the guy you're going to want in that Eric Bieniemy offense there. Robinson's going to get those power carries between the tackles, but I don't know the offense is going to put up a lot of touchdowns. I don't know how many red zone opportunities he's even really going to be able to steal away at that point.
I really couldn't agree more, because like you said, being in Eric Bieniemy's offense, Antonio Gibson could be a Jerick McKinnon type, be the fourth on the team in targets. You know what I mean? But where does that leave Brian Robinson? It leaves him, getting all the dirty work, and the dirty work is not rewarded in fantasy football, unfortunately. Yeah. It's the scoring, it's the catching, it's all the fancy fun stuff. So I completely get that, and that's why I'm a little even hesitant on Robinson this year from a redraft perspective. But also not only if the Commanders suck this year coming into new management, bye-bye Ron Rivera. I mean, Eric Bieniemy might take the head coaching job at that point, but then even so, Eric Bieniemy didn't draft Brian Robinson. It's a whole new regime change. Again, it's deja vu with Rachaad White over here. So, I mean, from the Dynasty perspective, I can absolutely see him not having a job in the next couple of years on this team.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, I do think one steal. I mean, redraft little nugget here for you. Yeah. Just like you said, Antonio Gibson, the market has not caught up on him for the ADP. Hopefully it still doesn't because of this coach speak from Rivera. But he should be a good redraft value this year. I believe just in best ball this year, on Underdog, he's been going in the 40 range for RBs.
Wow. That's low. But I think the smarter leagues are catching up. I've tried to send out some offers for him in some dynasty leagues. I sent out a second and third, and they were both early second, early third, and basically got told that if it wasn't 2024 early seconds, he had no interest. I was just damn, okay, well the market, the smart owners have kind of caught up at that point. But
as far as dynasty, yep. I look at the ADP market for redraft, and that's why I go just the whole market for RBs is a little undervalued this year. But even somebody like Antonio Gibson, who gets Eric Bieniemy to get thrown in the offense, get a little bit more versatility going. I do see Gibson could possibly be that RB 25 to 35 range this year. And if he's going in RB 40, oh my God, value.
Absolutely, yeah. So all right, let's round this up here with our last 5 in our top 20 here. I won't spend a ton of time on these guys. At least for me, we got. Let's see here. Yeah, all 5 of these guys for me are outside of my top 40 running backs overall. So Tyler Algier, got him at number 41 overall for running back, number 16 for first and second year guys. And then rounding it out after that, we got some rookies, Izzy Abanikanda with the Jets, Chase Brown with the Bengals, Eric Gray with the Giants, and then my guy Deuce Vaughn with the Cowboys. I'm assuming a lot of these guys probably aren't very high targets for you in redraft, but out of those, is there any of them you could see having a bigger impact in redraft this year?
I mean, probably your safest value is Tyler Algier, just because he's the known guy. You know, we saw what we got out of him last year. Like you said, Arthur Smith, I do agree with you. He looks at them as a kind of like a 1-2 punch, maybe a 1.5 punch with Tyler Algier and Bijan.
Most important handcuff, would you say?
He's up there. He is definitely going to be up there, you know, because like we said, they're going to be running the ball. Tyler Algier, they trust him. Mm-hmm. All right. If Bijan does get hurt, which does happen to rookies, I do think he's like top 3 handcuff. Mm-hmm. All right.
For sure,
I just can't think of any handcuffs off the top of my head right now.
I was kind of going through it's like Sharbs maybe is ahead of him maybe. If you count him,
maybe. I'm trying to think. Like Austin Eckler don't have anybody behind him that's worth a handcuff.
McCaffrey, not really.
Elijah Mitchell, a little bit could have some value there. But I mean, I do think one handcuff here. You know, I don't know if he'd be top 3, but he's definitely a handcuff I've been targeting this year, and he's in this tier right now. Is Chase Brown?
Yeah,
the only guy behind Joe Mixon. Mm-hmm. All right. We know the Bengals, you know, if they can't effectively pass the ball, they're going to run the ball a little bit more or pass the ball to their running backs to make up for that lack of a running game. All right. So I do think Chase Brown is definitely one of those handcuffs I want this year. But at least in comparison to me, because for what I have for my redraft ranking for this, I have Israel at 16. I have Tank Bigsby at 17. I have Deuce Vaughn at 18.
Ooh, I like it. Okay.
Because, I mean, it's Tony Pollard there, and Tony Pollard's still coming off the injury. So Deuce Vaughn could have a little bit more volume in the beginning of the season, maybe not at the back half if Pollard, you know, is finally healthy off of that. But in the beginning of the season, I can definitely see Deuce Vaughn being a little bit more, maybe like a 10 carry, you know, 5 to 7 target type of guy. Then I got Zach Evans at 19. And the one guy, like, I just kind of like, I'm the, you know, on is Roschon Johnson from a redraft perspective at 20.
Very easily could be like the third guy touches there. Deuce Vaughn here. I don't want to spend too much time on him. Don't want to be too much of the Cowboys homer. Like I would be so much more excited about him if you told me Kellen Moore was still the offensive coordinator this year. Yes. Like the fact that it's Mike McCarthy calling plays, I'm just like he's a guy that like you put an offensive mind like Shanahan, Kellen Moore, Sean McVay, some of the more forward-thinking offensive coordinators. You could do a lot with him, but I don't know. Yeah,
I do agree with you. It's been a little bit. It's been like 4 or 5 years since Mike McCarthy's called plays. You know, last one was with Green Bay, and obviously that didn't end very well. So I am curious to see maybe he has, you know, updated his playbook with the times. Maybe, you know, I don't want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I don't want to also, you know, shit down his throat and think he's going to be just terrible right off the bat, because there's no chance he's any worse than Urban Meyer. All right. So, you know what I mean? Like, so there is a rock bottom, and I don't think he's hit it just yet. So right. I'm curious to see how he does. Obviously, it's a downgrade going from Kellen Moore to Mike McCarthy, but I'm not like, you know, just kicking it, you know, like calling it the season just yet, because you guys do have a great defense, and a great defense leads to a good running game where Deuce Vaughn could be a little bit more involved in.
Yeah, I think that the guy leading our defense is our head coach next year. Dan
Quinn, isn't it? Dan Quinn?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a Cowboys fan. I'm a Packers fan. I would have loved you guys seeing Kellen Moore as your head coach. Just
me too, man.
Keep Dan Quinn as the defensive coordinator.
Even, man, I watched Kellen play in Boise like up close for 4 straight years too. So,
like, I feel bad. Didn't have a great career in the NFL, but goddamn, he's gonna have a good career as a coach one day.
Oh yeah, one of the smartest guys in terms of like
very innovative.
Yeah, for sure. But yes, I mean, you add that to the fact he's gone. You know, I mean, even Vaughn, man, if he was even just like 5'9", 200 pounds, like be a lot different. But you know, 5'5", under 180 pounds. Not sure how much play he's going to get in the offense. And then like even for the trick plays and the return jobs, he's got Devontae Turpin there as well too, who's a guy that actually was pretty decent in the return game last year. So that's like the one area I could see him really having an impact. And then he even has him kind of blocking him there to start off the year.
Like last year, the Cowboys willingly gave Ezekiel Elliott 23 targets. All right. They're going to probably double that with Deuce Vaughn.
Yeah.
All right. Like Tony Pollard had 55 targets. I wouldn't be surprised if Deuce Vaughn has 40. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It wouldn't shock me one bit because of the fact their wide receivers are CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, and Michael Gallup. I'm skeptical on Michael Gallup, but you got two good outside threats in Cooks and CeeDee Lamb. But then Mike McCarthy, that's the one. This is the wild card. Is Mike McCarthy? Is he going to be a little bit more pass heavy? Is he going to be a little bit more run heavy? If he's more run heavy, I do favor the running back in Deuce Vaughn.
Well, and like what's weird is like all offseason we've heard him talk about how they're going to get back to running the ball and that Kellen just wanted to put up points, we want to control the clock. But then you look at like their offseason moves, like it wasn't the moves of a team that says, hey, we want to start running the ball. You trade for Brandon Cooks, you draft a passing guy like Deuce Vaughn.
It's not like Brandon Cooks is known for his run blocking, you know what I mean?
Right, like all the moves they made, like tell me like we're actually going to put even more on Dak's shoulders, like based off the moves he made. I mean, I don't understand how you get rid of Zeke, don't replace him. Like we're going to run the shit.
That's why I don't agree with Coach Speak. I look at the transactions, I look at the contracts, I look at the draft picks, the draft capital, because that speaks. Those are actions. Actions speak louder than words. All right, and these words from these coaches are blah. All right, but their actions of the teams and the GMs tell you how they want to run the team. And like you just said, I mean, going in and acquiring Brandon Cooks, all right, letting go of Kellen Moore, like that's a little counterintuitive. Yeah. But at the same time, they went and got Brandon Cooks after they got let Kellen Moore go. So like they clearly had a plan to pass the ball more. Just they don't want Kellen Moore running the offense. I don't know why.
Yeah,
it makes no sense to me.
Yeah, it's terrible when you score a ton of points. Hate when
I know. Happens. Yeah, I mean, I was always taught as a young kid, playing any sport, you want to score more points than the other team. That's how you win.
Yeah, he's pretty good at that as a coach too. I don't know. The one thing that, like I said after last year, I was like, if Kellen has to be fired to get rid of Mike McCarthy, like I can live with it. But the fact that they let him go and kept McCarthy was just like so frustrating to me. So
they better hope. They better hope that the Chargers don't fire Staley because they are going to promote Kellen Moore to that head coaching job so fast if they don't want Staley.
Herbert's going to go crazy this year, man.
Exactly. And I mean, the biggest thing here is it may work out for the Cowboys. Maybe Mike McCarthy sucks this year, and then Kellen Moore, does good in the role, and maybe they go, you know what, Kellen Moore, come back to us, and maybe that works. Maybe it does. But I'm telling you right now, if they decide, the Chargers get off to a rough start, like overall, like how Staley normally does, terrible fourth down management, terrible time clock management, and their offense is scoring points, but they're still losing games. I wouldn't be shocked if they go, bye Staley, come on Kellen Moore, you're going to be our interim head coach. We'll test you out for the rest of the year type of deal, because Kellen Moore clearly has the experience to lead a team to the playoffs.
It's when, not if he's a head coach too. Like at some point, it's
exactly,
going to happen.
Exactly. Because I don't think Staley's the future there.
Yeah,
Cowboys
he's
can get lucky,
back.
But at the same time, I do think they took a step back. That's true. I mean, being a Packer fan, I know you know as well as I do. It wasn't lucky when that field goal went.
Yeah, you guys have owned us too. Like I can't even say anything on the Packers. Packers and 49ers, man. Those guys have been like the last 5 years.
Rodgers owned you guys, in my opinion. I don't know if the Packers necessarily owned you, but Rodgers owned you.
And Des caught it, and you know it.
He did catch it, and I don't think the NFL knows what a catch is still.
Yeah, they're still figuring that out. All right, two more notes I just want to throw in here on these last guys before we wrap up here. I don't want to spend too much time talking about these deep guys. But Izzy Abanikanda, very good chance to seize a huge role right out of the gates, like more so than most rookie 6-rounders would have, with the fact that, Breece Hall is going to be coming back slower. If he does get that job, that 21 total touchdowns his last year in college, playing style, even once Hall is back, is a perfect complement. He can come in and do the power runs up the middle where you're kind of picking your spots to attack with Hall. He's a guy, a sleeper. I think, I won't say league-winning potential, but I think he could swing some weeks for you if it goes right at the start of the year. And then Eric Gray, he was a guy I loved in college. Contributed as a pass catcher as well. Had 33 catches, almost 7 yards per catch. I think that's going to be his ticket onto the field early. but he's going to be buried behind Saquon. So, like, he's definitely a guy in redraft. Like, I don't even know if I'd have him in my top 30, but I do like the potential kind of when you're looking down the road. And then just in case Saquon does go down at that point, then I think that Eric Gray's going to get a lot more work. Who's the other guy there? Mostert's the backer, or Breida. Matt Breida's the
Yep, Breida. Matt Breida, yep.
So,
I to be honest, I really didn't know much about Eric Gray, coming out of college.
Well, let me just get caught up on him real quick. So Eric Gray last year at Oklahoma, 213 touchdowns, 213 carries, 1,300 yards, 11 touchdowns, kicked in another 33 catches for 230 yards.
Not bad.
Productive.
Oklahoma is definitely a pro-style offense, too.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he does have the experience with that. It is the Barkley effect, in my opinion, because Barkley, I mean, this is a number 2 overall draft pick. All right. Not only did they not pick up the option on him this year, or, sign a contract with him, they franchise tag him. This means that Barkley's going to want to come out, prove that, he wants to prove the running back market wrong, in my opinion, because I think he is one person that could. He's one of those running backs that I think that can be a franchise cornerstone with the versatility he has, not only running the ball, but catching the ball as well. So that's where I kind of I don't doubt Eric Gray's ability to catch the ball. I'm just curious of how much he actually gets worked into it with Barkley, being a phenomenal pass catcher and all their slot receivers as well, because I don't see this team being a deep passing team. It is going to be short dump offs, hand the ball to Barkley, play action pass, run the boot with Daniel Jones.
I have very similar thoughts. Tune back in a couple of weeks. I'm doing the NFC East preview with Joe, and yeah, I have a lot of thoughts ready to go on them Giants.
That should be a fun one. You're looking forward to that Cowboys one, I bet.
Yeah, bits and pieces of it. I'm more so upset with how good the Eagles are going to be again. I think that was my biggest takeaway when I was breaking up the division. I was just like, fuck, these guys are going to be good again.
You know what I saw? I saw on ESPN that the NFC East has the longest active drought of back-to-back division champions of any professional sport.
Oh, I didn't realize it was any sport. I knew football.
16 years of not having a back-to-back divisional champion.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Another good fact going in my direction to curse the Eagles.
Exactly. So I was
arguing with a friend. Yeah.
I don't know if it's a guarantee the Eagles win the division when you get a stat like that.
Here's another one I got for you. I was looking it up today. I was arguing with a buddy who's an Eagles fan. So the last 16 quarterbacks that made it to the Super Bowl and lost their first Super Bowl never made it back. You want to know the last 2 that were? Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're all good. I was going to say, because I know and jury's still out on Joe Burrow. I think he'll make it back one day, but until then, you are 100% correct. When you make it there, one time and you lose, Jared Goff's a perfect example. He hasn't been there since. All right. So it is very unlikely for you to make it back again. But here's the thing I will say. Jalen Hurts is a special dude. He is a special dude. He reminds me of the demeanor of Joe Burrow. The dude is never frantic. He's never worried. Cool as a cucumber. So that's one thing he has going in his favor, I think, because no matter what team they put around him, I think he's going to come out there and he's going to get 40 plus touchdowns, whether it's on the ground or in the air.
For sure. Yeah.
Or a combination.
Yeah.
But that's just the one thing I found it just insane is just 16 years of not having a back-to-back division champion. So, I mean, that could work in your favor. Cowboys can come out and be the champion.
We'll be in the mix, but on that, so Brady, Manning were the 2 that did it. Do you know who the only other quarterback to lose the first one and make it back to another one is? Only 3 ever. 2 of them are 2 of the best of all time.
The one that comes to my mind right away is Eli Manning, but I don't think he lost the Super Bowl when he got there. I think he was 2-0. So I'm going to take a shot here and say, can you give me a time frame? Maybe old. 2000s? Old?
Older than Manning and Brady.
Older than Manning and Brady. Okay. It's not Favre. Man, Man, I can't guess one right now. Damn.
Roger Staubach.
Staubach. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Those are the only 3 ever to lose their first one and make it back to another.
Damn, dude.
Yeah.
So you got to be a special person to do it, and I mean, I do think Jalen Hurts is a special guy, but that's yet to be seen.
History's tough, man. But all right, let's wrap this up here, man. I appreciate you coming on talking about this. I think we're gonna maybe talk about wide receivers down the road again. I think probably maybe later this weekend, hop back on. Talk about receivers there.
Same concept. Mix of the first and second year guys. Give you the top 20 ranks.
For sure. But all right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Again, guys, hit that like, subscribe button. Head on over to Fantasy Six Pack. Become members. Hop in the Discord. Send us a DM. But yeah, man.
Personalized questions.
Yeah,
that's the best part about the Discord. You can literally ask whatever funky question you want. What's our favorite food? If that's what, grinds your gears, go for it. But if you want fantasy questions, if you want fantasy questions answered, each personalized league, we got you guys.
Absolutely. All right, man. Thanks for hopping on. We'll talk to you guys later.
Peace out.